One of the popular things for a college football team to do right now is to jump up from the FCS to the FBS. Sure, that's probably not going to work for schools like North Dakota State and South Dakota State because of logistics, but plenty of other programs have decided to make the jump, and some have been successful where others have been horrible. In today's video though, we're going to talk about how every expansion team since the year 2010 has done. As I said, some have been great and some have been horrible, and we're going to take a look at who has made the jump and how it has gone for them. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about how every expansion team has done. Okay, so the first school I want to talk about is Appalachian State. They have been one of the most successful FBS expansion teams since they made the jump from the SoCon to the Sun Belt in 2014. They won national championships 3 straight years from 2005 to 2007 and were consistently one of the better teams in the Southern Conference during their time in the FCS. They became known as Giant Killers after knocking off Michigan in the Big House in 2007 and also carried that reputation into the FBS, most notably with a win against Texas A&M back in 2022. They instantly became contenders in a rebuilding Sun Belt, winning the conference 4 straight times from 2016 to 2019. This was done under some future Power 5 head coaches like Scott Satterfield, who's at Cincinnati, and Elia Drinkwitz, who's at Mizzou. They are 95-35 in 10 years at the FBS level, and only now are showing some signs of slowing down under head coach Sean Clark. The next team is Charlotte. They've had a weird history with football, as they started their program back in 1946, but it only lasted 3 years before it was shut down. It officially came back in 2013, and by 2015, it had joined Conference USA of the FBS, though not for any football success. The 49ers are 48-101 all-time, with only 1 bowl appearance during their entire history. This was the 2019 Bahamas Bowl, as they lost to Buffalo 31-9. They've had 3 straight head coaches since 2013, in Brad Lambert, Will Healy, and Biff Poggi, but Coach Poggi had been fired, and they are now on to a new era. They moved from Conference USA to the American in 2023, and given their location in a major metro area, Charlotte, North Carolina, it made sense. Despite their location though, Charlotte has a small stadium and hasn't had a season above 500 since that bowl loss, and it doesn't look like that they will anytime soon. I've always thought they'd succeed in the transfer portal, but that just does not look to be the case. Okay, so another school that has a bright future is Coastal Carolina. They're definitely one of the brightest of any Group of 5 team, and after starting their program in 2003, the Chanticleers proceeded to make the playoffs 6 times from 2006 to 2015, with 4 seasons at 10 wins or more and 6 Big South Conference titles. During most of this time, they are led by Joe Moglia, literally a former hedge fund manager, and he was their coach. Very crazy story. Once they moved to the FBS and the Sun Belt, though, the program would take off. Everyone remembers that stretch of a couple of years under Jamie Chadwell from 2020 to 2022, where the Chanticleers went 31-7 with 2 Sun Belt titles and a handful of really memorable games with players like Isaiah Likely and Grayson McCall. They've been one of the more successful teams to move up and are one of the best brands in the Group of 5 right now. Georgia State has only had their football program since 2010, and by 2013 they are already at the FBS level, going 10-23. They hired a new head coach to lead them into the Sun Belt, but he went 9-38 in 4 years with only 1 bowl. This was a loss in the Cure Bowl, and that was in 2015. Sean Elliott took over the program in 2017 and spent 7 years as the program's head coach before voluntarily leaving to be part of the staff at South Carolina. Georgia State went 41-44 during those 7 years with 4 wins and 5 bowl appearances, but they never won a Sun Belt championship. Despite their location in Atlanta, they've never been able to carve out a role for themselves at the highest level. The program was 60-108 all-time before this season started, and this past season they went 3-9. They aren't even the best FCS team to move up from the state of Georgia. That belongs to Georgia Southern. The Georgia Southern Eagles were one of the most dominant teams in the FCS from 1982 to 2014, winning 6 national championships and producing many of the sport's best triple option coaches like Paul Johnson, Jeff Monken, and most of the Navy staff right now. They also were a head coaching spot for Willie Fretz, who's coaching Houston right now, and they are most well known for their great style of option offense that regularly upset Power 5 teams like the game against Florida in 2013, where they didn't even complete a pass. Since joining the FBS, Georgia Southern has only won the Sun Belt once in 2014 when they were ineligible for the postseason. Since then, they're 65-61 and are 3-3 in bowl games. They haven't reached the same level of success they did in the FCS, but they can occasionally have a good season and are always tough to play as a program. Up next is South Alabama. The Jaguars of South Alabama started their program back in 2009, then transitioned to the FCS in 2011 before joining the FBS Sun Belt in 2012. After struggling their first season, the Jaguars would eventually make a bowl game in 2014, becoming the youngest football team to have ever made a bowl after just existing for 4 years. Since then, though, the Jaguars haven't exactly been the best in the conference, as they've won more than 6 games twice, both in 22 and 23 under Kane Womack, and he eventually left to become the defensive coordinator in 2024 with head coach Kalen DeBoer, who Womack was with at Indiana. But they never placed any higher than second in the conference standings at the end of the year, and under Major Applewhite this past season, they ended up going 6-6 in the regular season. But sadly, they haven't had a great record in bowl games. They're one of 6 FBS teams in the state of Alabama, with another coming later on this list, but being that crowded in the state does make recruiting pretty dang difficult sometimes. Originally Southwest Texas State, the Bobcats were a powerhouse in Division II, as they were in the Lone Star Conference, winning 2 championships in 1981 and in 1982 before moving up to the Southland Conference of the FCS in 1987. After some FCS success, they moved up to the FBS WAC in 2012 and then the Sun Belt in 2013. Despite some recent success, the Bobcats had been one of the weaker teams in the FBS, compiling a record of 51-94 since they joined the Sun Belt. Under head coach G.J. Kinney the last 2 seasons, though, they went 15-10 with their first ever bowl appearance and win. They even improved enough as a brand to get consistent interest from the Pac-12 Conference to join them. Being located between Austin and San Antonio, Texas State has the opportunity to get even better if Coach Kinney stays and keeps building the culture in San Marcos. They might be the second most successful team to move up in the state of Texas. The most successful team is UTSA. The UTSA Roadrunners started the program back in 2011 as they were an FCS independent before moving up to the FBS WAC in 2012 and then Conference USA in 2013. They were instantly fairly successful, going 8-4 in 2012 and 7-5 in 2013. This was owed to them being under former national championship winning coach Larry Coker, but Coker would finish his time in San Antonio going 26-32 with no bowl appearances because of the transition rules. Frank Wilson would lead the Roadrunners from 2016 to 2019, compiling a record of 19-29 with a bowl loss in 2016. The Roadrunners had their most success under Jeff Traylor, who took over in 2020 and has led them to a 42-20 record in 5 seasons. They also got a chance to move up to the American. He had double-digit wins in 2021 and 2022, but after a 6-6 season this year, it feels like the Roadrunners are on a downturn. They'll need to get back to roster building next season to continue their success. The least successful member of the programs on this list is definitely the UMass Minutemen. Prior to them joining the Mid-American Conference in 2012, the Minutemen had actually been a pretty solid program, winning a national championship in 1998 and being competitors in the Yankee Conference. But since '98, the team started to struggle, and seeing an opportunity to make more money in the FBS, the athletic department decided to make the move in 2012. UMass has struggled at the FBS level for the last 12 years, going just 24-112. They ended up having another bad season this year. They've never gone to a bowl game and have had 4 head coaches during this time frame, including 2 legends in Don Brown and Mark Whipple, who couldn't figure it out. UMass is a hockey school, and it's hard to get recruits to play in New England, and for the longest time they were independents. Maybe they'll turn it around in the MAC, but so far, they're the worst FBS team on this list. Old Dominion is another team that struggled in the FBS. After reinstating football in 2009 under head coach Bobby Wilder, the team went 46-14 in 5 years, having some success in the FCS playoffs in 2011 and 2012. But they went 6-6 in their first FBS season in 2014, as they were members of Conference USA, and Taylor Heineke was the quarterback. They then went 10-3 in 2016 and won the Bahamas Bowl, but then fell off the face of the earth, going 10-26 from 2017 to 19. They hired Ricky Rain to be their head coach in 2020, and he's only gone 20-30 in 4 seasons. Sadly, they've just not done well, and once the team moved to the Sun Belt in 2023, they were joined by another school in the state of Virginia in James Madison. Virginia is a crowded state with FBS teams, and recruiting is especially difficult. But they do have some good games in their recent history, including 2 upset wins over Virginia Tech in 2018 and 2022. Another team from Virginia is Liberty, as they started their football program in 1973 as an NAIA program before moving up to D2 in 1981. They then joined the FCS in 1988, and then the FBS as an independent in 2018. They had middling levels of success until 2007, where they won the Big South Conference 8 times in 10 years. In 2020, they had one of their best seasons in history, as under Hugh Freeze, they went 10-1 and finished the season ranked 17th with Malik Willis at quarterback. They used this recent success to gain entry into the Conference USA, where they instantly won the conference with a 13-1 record under former Coastal coach Jamie Chadwell and former Tennessee quarterback Caden Salter. This past season, they ended up once again having a decent year, and they instantly made a name for themselves as one of the best teams in the group of 5, and we'll see if that momentum can keep up in the future. James Madison is another program with a long winning history, as they started up in 1972 and slowly became a monster in the FCS once they joined it in 1980, especially in the 2000s. They would claim 2 national titles in 2004 and 2016, and were oftentimes on the losing end of a championship game against North Dakota State. If the Bison weren't in the FCS, JMU might be where we think NDSU is. Once they made the move to the FBS Sunbelt in 2022, they were so good under head coach Curt Cignetti that they had forced a conversation on bowl bans for teams in transition, going 8-3 in 2022, then 11-2 in 2023. Ultimately, they were allowed to play in the Armed Forces Bowl before Cignetti left the team for Indiana in 2024 and immediately had success, but James Madison didn't have a fall-off. Instead, they ended up going 8-4 under Bob Chesney, and they'll be successful for a long time. Okay, so we have 3 more left, and before we get started with those, go ahead and drop your thoughts down in the comment section and let me know what video I should do next. Sam Houston State is another example of a long-time successful program finally making the jump to FBS in the last couple of years. The Bearcats joined the FCS Southland Conference in 1987 after being a successful D2 team, but didn't reach prominence until 2011 under Willie Fritz. From 2011 to 17, the Bearcats consistently won double-digit games and reached at least the semifinals of the FCS playoffs 6 times. They finally won their only FCS national championship in 2020 before moving to Conference USA in 2023. They went 3-9 last season as they made the transition, but ended up winning over 9 games this year, just barely missing playing in the Conference USA Championship against the next team on the list. A lot of their success has come from head coach K.C. Keeler, who came to Sam Houston State after a successful stint at Delaware. It'll be interesting to see if Sam Houston State can keep up the momentum. Jacksonville State, which is located in Jacksonville, Alabama, is another program that's risen through a lot of levels of football, starting as a divisionless school in 1904 and then an NAIA team in 1966 before moving to D2 in 1973, where they won a national championship in 1982, and then eventually joined the FCS in 95. Finally, in 23, they made the Conference USA list, and during their 25 years in the FCS, the Gamecocks made the playoffs 10 times, including a loss in the 2015 national championship to who else but North Dakota State. They were once again another choice for Conference USA because of their location in a southern state and the possibility of them growing with the rest of the conference, especially under head coach Rich Rodriguez. Well, they ended up making the move well, as they went 9-4 last season with a win over Louisiana in the New Orleans Bowl, and this year they also once again had a good season. They definitely made the transition well, and it'll be very entertaining to see how they do from here. Okay, so the last school is Kennesaw State. They're one of the youngest teams in the entire country, as not in just the FBS, but in general. They were crested in 2015, and they were a solid FCS team, being competitive upon their first season, and then going 12-2 and winning the Big South in 2017. 3 of their 10 seasons of existence featured double-digit wins in a conference championship. They were selected to be the 10th member of Conference USA in 2023, mostly because of their close location to a major southern market in Atlanta, but also because the program was seen as one that had a lot of potential. Well, that potential was never reached this year, since they ended up going 2-10 and fired the only head coach they've ever had, and this happened before the season was even over. I actually made a video a few months ago about the entire situation for Kennesaw State, so if you want to watch that, I'll leave a link down below. But it just doesn't really feel like they have the facilities, resources, or really anything to compete at this level, and it seems like it could be a huge mistake. The jury is still out since it's been 1 year, we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, today we talked about how every FBS expansion team has done since 2010, and what surprises you. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down below, let me know who you think should make the jump next, and before you go, don't forget to also leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.